can't get this intro. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Liberty, and today I am going to go over the 7 books that I read for the month of March, which are right here, and I'm going to go over each and every one of them, what I thought about them. So the first book that I read was Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I know this is wildly popular right now. I did like it. I didn't love it. I love the overall writing style. I thought the writing was phenomenal in this, but the story, I felt a little bit bored at times. If you don't know what this is about, in this book you're following the main character. Her name is Casey, who is struggling to make it as a writer. She's also struggling in her interpersonal relationships. You're following Casey as she is trying to make ends meet by working in a restaurant, but she's also trying to find time to write her novel. She is also dealing with entanglements with different men with her relationships who seem to be completely different from one another. Throughout the book, she's also struggling with memories of her lost mom, and she's also struggling with the pressures of becoming a good writer. Throughout the book, she is with other writers who she finds joy when they understand her life as an author. So essentially, you're following her life as she is grieving the loss of her mother. So not only is she dealing with the loss of her mother and trying to navigate her life, she's also dealing with messy relationships and trying to figure out what she's doing next. Overall, this book was okay. I didn't love it. I felt a little bit bored at times, but I love the overall story. I just felt like it took a little while to get there, but the writing is absolutely beautiful. I did find it very rich with how she explains relationships, how she explains trouble and inner turmoil. Overall, I felt it was very well crafted, and I did like the book. I just didn't love the story, if that makes any sense. I think overall this is a good book, personally. I didn't love it the way I thought I was going to love it. I mean, I did like it, but I thought the overall writing was better than the actual story. And I know some people love this or they hate it, so let me down below what you guys thought of this book. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are. So the next book that I read was Educated, a Memoir by Tara Westover. And again, I know this is also widely popular. It's getting a ton of reviews, great reviews. And I know a lot of you have read this book. It has been on my shelf for a long time, so I really wasn't that interested in reading it, but I am so glad I did. I'm gonna say that this is probably my favorite book this month. I was completely captivated from the first page. I was completely captivated from the first page. Now, I also paired this with the audiobook, so I thought the audiobook was also just phenomenal. If you're not familiar with this book, she tells the story of her isolated, strict rural family growing up in Idaho. And her family believes in prepping for the end of the world, and they also distrust the government. They don't believe in any modern medicine. They don't believe in a public education. They actually forbade her from attending school, and she was homeschooled for a period of time. However, despite how she felt, eventually she ended up going to a public school. She was determined to get her own education, to get her own beliefs from the confines of her own family. And there's a lot of shock value in this book, just how much she is isolated from the outside world. So she is struggling between the love of her family and her desire to have her own life, her own education, but she is also trying to kind of grapple with coming from a family that's emotionally and physically abusive towards her, especially with her and her brothers. There are a lot of trigger warnings about family abuse and emotional and physical abuse in this book, but I thought this book was absolutely fantastic. And I heard somewhere that her mother also maybe wrote a book to contend with her story. I don't think I need to read it, but this book definitely lives up to the hype. I think this is a definite read. So the next book that I read is I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, the complete manga collection by Yuro Samino. And this is my first manga book. I don't know, I just felt like I wanted to read more manga. I know a lot of people love a nice manga book. What I didn't realize about a manga book is that you read it backwards, I guess like a traditional Japanese style book. So you start from the back and you work your way forward. I really thought this was bittersweet. This is a really cute book. It's for teens, so it is a little bit young. I really enjoyed the overall story. That's why I chose this book to read. I feel like it kind of matches my shirt here. It's kind of spring vibes, so pretty with the Japanese blossoms on it. You're following a teenage girl. Her name is Sakura. She approaches the end of her life when she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And she created this entire bucket list of things that she wanted to do before she dies. So a friend of hers in high school helps her to accomplish her goals. And the two of these develop a close friendship. Next, I read Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. What I didn't realize is that she is also the lead singer in the band Japanese Breakfast, which I love. I just never put this two together. I guess I didn't know her name. This book blew me away. One of my favorite books that I read this month, probably this year. And I can't wait to journal this because I have really cute things that I printed out for this book. In this book, she goes over her complicated relationship with her Korean mother, and she also goes through her experiences growing up in a mixed race in Eugene, Oregon. The title of this book refers to H Mart, which is a chain of Korean grocery stores where Michelle would shop often with her mother, and overall serves as like a symbol of her connection to her mom through food and this grocery market. She explains her journey as being a musician and then ultimately how she deals with the sickness and loss of her mother. This book ripped my heart out. It was so good. It was so emotionally captivating. I love the way she describes her connection to her mom through Korean food, and she goes into how they used to make food together, order food together, and although they do have a complicated relationship, it is so sweet. I love how she brought food and the H Mart and just everything that's culinary into their relationship, and just how she connects now with her mother through food. This was so good. It's probably going to be one of my favorite books this year. The next book I read is from my book of the month from February, and it is Wayward by Amelia Hart. And again, look at this amazing cover. This is so beautiful. Cottagecore vibes. I know that's a big thing right now, but I just love everything about this cover. It's so beautiful. If I were ever to write a book, this would be my book cover. This is, just love this book cover so much. I know I'm a sucker for a good book cover. I know that. Do I judge books by its cover? Maybe. Sometimes, not all the time. This is a multiple point of view story. You're following 3 different women over different time periods. First, you're following a woman named Altha in 1619, and the story opens up with her being on trial for a murder of a neighbor. So throughout the book, you follow her story of whether or not she murdered someone and just how that connects to the other 2 women. Another woman that you're following is Kate. You're following her in more recent times in 2019, and she ends up fleeing her husband because he's been abusive. And then you're also following a woman named Violet in 1942. She's a little bit more unique than women of that age because she really values education. She wants to learn about, insects and bugs and learn more about the biology and the botany on her land. But something tragic happens to her where she ends up fleeing her home. All these women, they share one thing in common, is the last name Wayward. And there's a place called Wayward Cottage that connects all of these women. I thought this was so charming. I love this book from the very first page. I love each of the women throughout the book. I thought this was so fast paced. I think I read this in like 2 or 3 days. I was captivated the entire time. I didn't get bored, which is something to say. There's nothing more frustrating when you feel like you're getting bored with a book and you're having a hard time finishing it. This, I just felt like I couldn't wait to read it at night. I couldn't wait to come home to read this book because I love the story that much. Definitely get this book if you want witchy, kind of cottagecore vibe, women who are independent, women who are different. This is the book for you. And this is a book I'm going to have a hard time explaining because I'm not sure how I felt about it, but it's The Berry Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. And I've only read one of his other books. I read Clara and the Sun, which I loved. I love the writing. I love the story of that. I have to say, you guys, I didn't love this one. And I know he's very beloved. He's a beloved author. People love him. And I know there are different opinions about this book. I thought the writing was amazing. I thought overall he's an accomplished author. He's very good at writing. That's obvious. If you're not familiar with the story, you are following an elderly couple, which I know in itself is kind of a different protagonist when you're following an elderly couple. It's Axel and Beatrice. They have a very sweet relationship throughout the book. He refers to her as princess all the time. You're in a world where there has been a mysterious mist that has been laying over the land, and sadly it's been causing everyone to have amnesia and forgetting things as soon as something happens. But in the story, you're following Axel and Beatrice as they decide to go on this big journey to find their son. And throughout their journey, the mist, or their amnesia, is causing them to have problems to actually find their son in the first place. They get lost, forget what they're doing overall. They even struggle to remember their own past lives and why they were even together in the first place. Along the way, they encounter various characters throughout the book that also hinders their progress in their journey. There's magical creatures, there's even a slain dragon. I thought the overall story was really good. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it dragged a little bit. Again, I love the writing. I'm always in tune with how people write. I thought the writing is so good. It dragged a little bit at times, but overall, I did like this book. I thought I was gonna like it a lot more because I did, like I said, like his other book, Claire and the Sun. I'm not saying don't read it. I really enjoyed it. It's just, you know, it kind of dragged here and there. It just wasn't my favorite this month. But again, a really good book. Let me know. I know this is a very popular book and some people love it or hate it. Let me know down below what you thought of this book if you read it. If you haven't read it, do you plan on reading it? Let me know. And the last book that I read for the month of March is Users by Colin Winnett. Now, I got this book from my book subscription box, The Strand. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll link it down below. This is okay too. It's not my style of book that I tend to gravitate towards. That's why I specifically chose this type of genre for my subscription box. In this book, you're following the main character. His name is Miles. And he works at like a virtual reality company. They call it Original Experiences. He came up with a certain experience called Ghost Lover. And within that virtual reality, you're living kind of your everyday life, but you're being haunted by your ex-lover. But they're finding glitches in the system where people in the virtual reality, they're doing things that are very immoral. They are creating things like rape dungeons and things like that. So he is forced to kind of go back to the drawing board on what this virtual reality world is supposed to be like. He's also struggling, you know, to have connections with his family. And eventually he comes up with another program to kind of transform the company, and eventually he pitches his new masterpiece called The Egg. So within this book, you're really diving into like tech companies, just how they use people's personal experiences to create virtual reality experiences, and ultimately it can have this devastating effect on your actual human experience. I actually like this book. I read it very quick. It's a very short read. It's only 271 pages, so I thought it was a really quick read. I thought The Strand really did well with choosing a book for me. I believe I have another book in my book subscription box. I do. I forgot what it was. I'll leave it down below. All right, guys, that's it. Those are my 7 books that I read for the month of March. I don't know what I'm going to read for the month of April yet. I don't know, we'll see where the wind blows me, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed all of these books, and I hope you enjoyed the content today. And I just want to thank you to my now over 100 subscribers. I am so excited that I have over 100 people interested in this content because this has been so fun for me, like I've mentioned before. But anyway, I'm so glad that we have a safe place to talk about books and share books with one another. Let me know down below what your favorite read was for the month of March, because I just love getting book recommendations from you guys. It's been so much fun. This is probably my favorite book that I read for the month of March. This was so good, so definitely check this out. All right, guys, that's it. Those are my books that I read for the month of March. I cannot wait to journal all these books. That'll be the next video coming out. And don't forget to get all cozy and get lost in a book. Okay, until next time, guys, cheers. Okay.